racing immediately. But a champion becomes a legend. Makybe Diva wins it again.
Yes, yes, yes! Wins the Everest. Glen Boss wins another big one.
Welcome to Who's the Boss, a special edition this week, commemorating the great Makybe Diva, who last weekend, as we sit here right now, passed away at the age of 27. The Grand Mare meant so much to so many people, not least the man sitting next to me, Glen Boss. Three cups and so many great moments and so many Group 1s and so many big days. Mate, how you going?
Mate, it was really good, Adam. It was, when I got told early, it was like, I kind of just started reflecting straight away. I pulled my cups out and I went down and bought a beer and I had a beer out of it.
9 o'clock in the morning?
No. Yeah, I was just sitting there watching the one of the racing shows, and I just thought, feels appropriate. I'll go and went down and got a beer and just poured in there, and I just started sipping out of one of the cups, and then started reflecting, and then the phone just lit up. I would have received no less than 1,000 messages between Instagram and my own personal phone, from all parts of the world. So it just really dawned on me how big a footprint she left, and then obviously you have to start doing the television and the radios and all that stuff, and every time that you're doing this, you're reflecting on what went by and what she actually did for me on a very high personal level and so many other people.
Yeah, and we're going to delve in it today, and we're going to speak on Who's the Boss to someone who had a big part in her development as a racehorse and was there at the start, Vincent Hall, who rode her in 5 of her first 12 races around country Victoria, and the David Hall stable he was linked to, obviously a relation, is Vincent and first trainer, so the early days, and then before she hit the real big stage, but it was just before as well. So it's an interesting take. I've got to go back to the start with her though, and I love these stories in hearing about the making of a champion. The first time you laid eyes on her or hopped on.
Yeah, and it's going to be just reflecting on what Vinny and David did. Like, you can't underestimate that early part of a athlete's career, how important that is.
Because if they rushed her,
we wouldn't have got what we got. They knew they knew what they were doing, so they handed over the keys of a very good athlete. But yeah, my first time I actually had the opportunity to meet her, and I'll never forget this day, Adam. This will be a memory that I'll take forever, and I can retrace every moment of that meeting. She walked out. It was very early at Flemington, and I just looked at this tall, kind of. It looked like someone had draped a sheet over a coat hanger, She had this big structure, but she didn't have much muscle definition.
So this is track work before a big race day?
This is Tuesday before the Caulfield Cup.
In 2003.
2003. So David Hall asked me to go and do a 2,000 metre gallop on the course proper, which is it's quite a long gallop. The first 1,000 metres is pretty sedate. We go 15 to the furlong, 15 to 200 metres for people at home.
So 3/4 pace?
3/4 speed. It's
not race pace.
It's nowhere near it. You're probably doing 50 Ks, 45, 50 Ks. And then from the 1,000, I was to increase every 200 metres until I got to about the 400 metre mark, and then really let it roll up, but not near my top, but close. All I remember from the first time I got over her neck to canter, I thought, oh my God, this is... I couldn't hear her touching the ground. It was very light. That's the first thing I remember. Thinking, oh, okay, very efficient, very quiet underneath me. I thought, oh, that's good. Then we start doing our gallop and getting quicker and quicker, and then I realised she's in the air for quite a long time. She's got a beautiful stride, and she's going very quick. So at the 200 metre mark, I'm flying really quick. But what you got to understand, I've ridden some very good horse flesh in Australia up to this point, so I know what a good horse is. And when you get to that level, they'll all gallop very fast over long distances. They're all very good. But it's what they do after their gallop which really gets me, because you've got to be a student of what they do after it, because it's so important. But so I wound her down after the gallop, went another sort of half a mile, sort of got down towards the mile point, and she stood there and she took 2 or 3 big gasps of air, and under the saddle her heart rate dropped. very quickly. And after she did those two big, she just sort of stood there and surveyed, and she did that a lot. And her breathing come back to normal and her heart rate dropped so quick.
So her lung capacity is through the roof.
Her aerobic capacity was unbelievable. So then I went, holy I honestly had a moment, said, holy God, what have we got here? Because
by yourself at the back of Flemington there, looking over the river.
Yeah, because I knew how fast I went over a long distance. And then I knew that after this, because normally they'll have their veins popping out, they'll be a little bit stressed, because, if you're an athlete and you're pushed to a point, you get that endorphin rush, you'll get that, and you kind of a little bit like that. But she was the opposite. She went down. She went the other way. She was like, oh my God, that was simple. And I could go and do that again. Yeah. So then you go, holy shit, what have we got here? So I trotted back to David, and he's gone, because she's gone good on the clock. He's gone, she's pretty good, isn't she? And I said, David, this is a fucking champion. I said, you have got no idea what you got. And that's exactly what I said to him. And then that's the moment. And
did his demeanour change when you told him that?
Oh, no.
Tony Santic, the owner?
Because I was very upfront about, I would have, if it didn't give me that feel, I said, oh, yeah, she's okay, mate, it'll win a couple of country cups. I'm pretty honest like that, whether I'm right or wrong, but I kind of had a good handle on where horses are.
Wow, what a story. And then obviously she ran in the Caulfield Cup, ran really well.
Ran unbelievable. She drew the outside barrier.
Yeah.
And it wasn't our race.
You didn't want it to be.
Well, we couldn't win. Listen, we couldn't win from the outside draw, and it wasn't our race.
But the Cup was.
The race setup was not going to suit us. So we kind of went, okay, we can't win this, right? Because if you bust her there, just trying to win the Caulfield Cup, if you bust her, David Hall, because she's, like I said, she's a very lightly framed mare at this point. I wouldn't say she's fragile, but she's light. If you bust her there, David Hall has to spend the next 2 weeks putting all the pieces back together. Yeah. So we decided, listen, you know what? It's not going to be our race, but let's ride her planning for the Melbourne Cup. So we went back to last. I rode her up the fence and she ripped up last 600 and had a shining light on her head because she come through the pack and ran fourth. And then she comes out of that run still doing that.
Fine.
So we all go, okay, what's the next 2.5 weeks? How do we plan? Instead of, holy next 2.5 weeks, we've got to try and put this thing together because we can bust her up. You know what I mean? So, I'm not saying we give her, we weren't trying, but we were trying to make sure that we win the Melbourne Cup. And then she showed us all the right signs for the next 2.5 weeks, and we were very confident that she could win the Melbourne Cup.
We'll get to more stories, and we've got Vincent Hall coming up as well, but we've just got to give a mention to our supporters here at Who's the Boss. AirTouch, great supporters, airtouch.net.au for all your air conditioning needs. I've got the iPad right here, which you can just download the app onto your device and control all your air conditioning at home remotely, which is fantastic. I could be sitting here, Bossy, and I'm not sure if this is your air conditioning back in the Gold Coast, 1,000 k's away. And I can say, no.
This is the one here, and I love what you're doing. It's 21. It's 21. Good in here.
Lovely ambient. But I could switch to your one and go, oh, no, let's give Bossy a little sweat when he gets home, 27 degrees.
Mate, it's already 27 degrees at home anyway.
Outside. But inside. So AirTouch, that's the place to go and get all your...
How easy is it, though? It's amazing.
Fantastic. So put it on your iPad, your iPhone, whatever you want, and do it there. A mention as well, if you could support us on our social media here at Who's the Boss. We're on Facebook, Instagram and TikTok, YouTube at Who's the Boss. You might be watching us right now on YouTube. Thank you very much. Tell everyone to like and subscribe if you could, and anywhere get your podcast from. And we're here
about this studio?
The Plot Studios. plotstudios.com.au. It's in North Sydney. If you're thinking about doing a podcast, get in touch with the guys. Come down here. You'll get looked after and beautiful light.
It's the best studio I've ever been in, ever. Not by that far, by a long way. It's magnificent.
Look at you glowing as well. You've got the golf tan happening. And look at me. Looking good, Bossy. Looking good. But feeling good about it, despite the fact that, they're memories and nothing lasts forever. It's going to happen to all of us once upon a time. That's the ends at Makybe. Was there any signs? We saw her late last year. And go back and check out that episode when we went and actually think. But any signs? Because right then, this was only 5-6 months ago, she looked beautiful. So healthy for an older horse.
Listen, I spoke to Tony and said, day before, she's just normal, perfect, as she always was. But they can come down with colic, which is like a twisted bowel. And it can come on quick. And at that age, it can be life threatening, and which you know, and it is so painful. So she probably went down that night. They've seen her in the morning, and you know.
So just something gets in a gut
yeah,
or
it's like a bad twisted bowel, and it's very painful for them. But and it can happen later in life, like with humans, you know, people get crook. But listen, you reflect on the great 27 years, and you know what, and the joy that she's like. Even Tony was saying when I spoke to you, you know, they take her to schools, they take her to charities. She went to the races a few times. She went to the Living Legends. She was giving the whole time, like you know, gave a lot to a lot of people. So we owe her a great deal.
So when she was racing, the nature, because these racehorses, they can be, especially colts, not so much mares when they get a bit older, but colts, they can be nutcases. They can be hard to get around. Her nature about just stable life. She loved her apples, as she taught me late last year, but just her nature was just.
Yeah, well, you've seen it firsthand. You know, that's what she was like. Riding her track work at home, especially down at the Mark Dell at Lee's property, you know, because it was a country setting, away from all the fuss, and you know, to ride her work, that's why I called her mum all the time, because she was just so chilled, you know, and you know, and she's just a pleasure to be around. But race day, mate, it's like she grew like she grew 6 inches. Yeah, she like puffed up. And she become a bit more aggressive, and then I had a bit more to manage, you know what I mean? Obviously, you know, because they know that's their job. So I had all this ball of energy, and I'm talking by the time she was in 05, she's 80 kilos heavier than when I first seen her, maybe. Like she just developed and developed, like, you know.
03, 04, 05.
Oh God! So my job was to manage all that power and energy. To keep the heart rate down, make sure she did all the right things, and but she instinctively knew her job very well.
Yeah, the record, and we'll get back to the Melbourne Cups 04, 05. I want to tell some stories about that, but won a Sydney Cup thrown in over 3,200 metres, an Australian Cup over 2,000 metres, a Tancred Stakes 2,400 metres, Turnbull over 2,000, the Cox Plate as well, which you were on her for. One of the greatest photos in horse racing history, when she's like they're strung across the track and then she brained them. She won a Memsie Stakes over 1,400.
She won a 1,400 first up.
So pretty adaptable. Lee Friedman, who took over the training after David Hall went to Hong Kong, once said, if I prepped her for a sprint race, she'd win it.
Well, she run quicker times than sprinters, like Group 1 sprinters. Yeah. She did that all the time. People just got to, you know, if people want to really delve and go back into her record and start looking at sectional times, go and look at hers. She run quicker times, half mile, 600, 200, than the Group 1 sprinters on the same day, if there was a Group 1 sprint. It's just phenomenal. That's the power that she had.
2004 Melbourne Cup, so Lee is training her by now. And you mentioned Mark Dell, so that was a property outside of Melbourne that they bought that had its own private training track. So just basically a country retreat essentially for horses. It was private, it was beautiful. But on this day, it hoses down. Yeah. And you're taking on Irish horses, including the great Vinnie Rowe in the slop at Flemington, but she still powers away and wins that day.
I'd say it was one of my finest moments one of my finest moments on a racetrack, because I had, you know, typical Melbourne. We had a good track at the start of the day. It was beautiful blue skies, and I had a plan that I was going to execute to beat Vinnie Rowe. And my plan was, I knew I had more turn of speed from him, and I was going to track him everywhere he went, and simply just come out and I'll beat him by sheer speed. And so that was my plan, and I figured I'd beat him doing that. Because I knew he would just tow me, and I'll just use him as a slipstream, come off, and I'll just beat him when I want. Anyway, you know, the rain come through.
It was a massive storm, wasn't it?
A massive storm come through.
I think I remember Richard Freeman on the television broadcast say, this is remarkable. People are running for their lives, all the women who have got the spray tans, the Maribyrnong is turned orange.
Yeah, see a fake tan down the straight. But like, So what happened? They brought the stewards brought us in and said there's this front coming through, and it was coming through Geelong, and mate, it was purple and red, and it looked pretty bad, right? So then the front come, and then all the rain, but it come late. Now, I was probably the only jockey, because there was a bit of a delay. I was probably the only jockey that walked the track. I went out and walked the track
after the rain.
Yeah. Because as it was, it was still raining when I walked it. But what happened, because it come late and quick, the inside of the track, even though it looked shitty because it had all been dug up, if you went just below the surface, the actual base was still exactly the same as 4 or 5 wide. It just looked a bit messy. And now Vinnie Rose, he is the best wet tracker in the world, basically, over 2 miles. So now my whole plan of what I did is completely torn up. It's out the window. I cannot beat him now like this. So I went out there and I walked the track, and I thought, you know what, it's no disadvantage to go to be on the inside, and knowing that everyone is going to go out because they think the inside's going to be off. Traditionally, Flemington, rain, get to the middle because it's got that, it's that tight of track. And I went out and I thought, no, this is going to be very good because I know I'm going to get runs because no one's going to be there. So I said, Lee, I'm going to ride her and steal every inch. So I did. From the plan, I went to the fence, and I went around one horse the whole race, and that was when we straightened up. I popped out one was stopping, popped out, knowing that if I save all that ground, I'm going to beat him. And that's exactly how it worked out. I stayed there. He covered ground. He went around the field. I went around one horse, and we sort of matched up at about the 280 metre mark. And obviously, because I stole so much ground, when I asked her, she gave me a nice little turn of speed where he was already at his top, and we beat him a length and 3/4. So for me, that was a great moment, just kind of doing, I don't know, executing a different plan, which was not on the spot. Like I had to execute that plan, think about that plan within 20 minutes, half an hour of the actual event. Yeah.
How good. And we've got to go.
You still got to have the partner in crime, right?
Yeah.
She was a good wet tracker, and I needed her that day to be as good as she could be. Yeah.
Absolutely. And Lee give you a bit of credit that day?
I mean, it'll go down as one of the best rides ever. But I'm saying personally,
just gave yourself satisfaction.
It gave me so much satisfaction. Because like I said, I was Johnny on the spot. I had to completely find another way, and I just backed myself, knowing that if I had her, I could back myself and back her to get that job done. Like, we only give Vinnie Rowe 2 kilos.
Yeah.
The world's best 2-miler over on a wet ground. So it was no mean feat.
Absolutely. And then you get to 12 months later and it happens again. So you've won the Cox Plate by now. You won all these races.
Yeah.
This is going to be her final day on a racetrack. We didn't know it at the time, but we found out at the presentation. Got something for you, mate. I actually found this. I don't know how I kept it. I don't know why I kept it.
Oh, wow.
The race book from the day.
Oh, wow. How good. Yeah, I've got a couple of these. I've got these with all my notes in them.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, with all my notes.
So if I open that up, we'll make this part of the set now.
Yeah.
You can keep the one with all the notes on it. And it says Makybe Diva, was it 58 kilos?
58 kilos.
Barrier 14.
Yeah.
It says, I think in the blue there, it says in the form, has a lot of weight, but can get it right on the day or something like that.
It's amazing. But I'd have all my little notes scribbled on this.
What are your notes scribbled on that race book?
Like, some of them can't win. It's a boat. Don't get behind that. Follow that one. Just little prompts, because just before.
So you do that on the morning of the day before?
I'll have my big spreadsheet, which I've already done, and then I'll write little prompts in the race book.
So you go back between races just to remind yourself.
Yes, and then I'll go, okay, yeah, that's I remember that one, and I go, don't make sure I don't get behind that, and that little things like that, and then it's sort of it's right there, but that you got to keep.
No, we're going to put that part of the set.
Yeah,
so there it is. The front page. That's from the year before in 2004 with a great ride. So there you go. And there's a jockey behind you who's happy for you too. So
yes, they were happy for me.
Yeah, exactly. But like the pressure was an element here. So we've talked about it a bit, but I know I was down at Markdale a week before, and Lee Freeman was just like, he was all over the shop. He was like, he knew the pressure of the situation. Because I guess on reflection, he's taken this great horse and he's have to somehow make her greater. She's already won a Melbourne Cup when he takes over. So then you've got that, and also the fact that I'm on the precipice of doing something for the rest of time that probably won't be done again. 3 Melbourne Cups in a row. You're the same boat though, but you just had to stay clear as day because your job was over 3 minutes 20 basically.
Yeah, well, you got to remember that prep of 05, we were all chips in for the Cox Plate. We sat down, had a meeting that spring and said, listen, we're not even going to worry about this Melbourne Cup. She's done it twice.
Oh, really?
She's won yeah. We won a Sydney Cup. So that's why we prepped her up to win first up and kept speed in her because he said, oh, we have to win the Cox Plate to make her a proper champion. We've got to win one race. So please don't even think about the Melbourne Cup. We're going this way. So we won the Cox Plate. And
just on that race, that mentioned before, that famous photo.
Yeah.
Even when that photo's taken, like everyone's lined across the track.
Yeah.
Are you looking across going, got your covered?
Yeah, mate, they all took off. They were all trying to flush me out. And I said, look at these clowns. They've just all gone too soon. Yeah. And basically they played in. They were trying to flush me out, but they all played into my hands. They it up. And
perfect.
Yeah, it was perfect for me. And she just showcased. She was way for age, 2,000 metres around the valley. She was going to beat them, you know. But what she did, I remember the phone call on, because I was thinking, Lee rang me on Tuesday after the Cox Plate.
After the Cox Plate, yeah.
And
so this is one week before the Melbourne Cup.
This is the thing you hate sometimes, you know, and you're thinking, all right, this is the end of it. Like she's not done well after the Cox Plate, or Lee's not got the right sign. And he'll ring me and say, listen, it's over. We've had a great run. We're not going towards unfortunately, you're not going towards Melbourne Cup. So I pick up the phone and, yeah, Lee, thinking that's my mindset. He goes, Bossy, mate, you got to come down to the farm Thursday. This thing, this is what he said, has put on 6 kilos since Saturday. He said, you got to see what this is.
So that's unusual.
This is
like I can easily put on 6 kilos after a run because I'll eat too much.
This is an athlete at the peak of its powers.
Yeah.
Getting bigger, faster, stronger as we see in real time. He said to me, mate, you've got to come down the farm on Thursday and actually see this for yourself.
So they generally speaking, if they're going to do anything, they're going to drop weight after a run like that.
Yeah, but she went the opposite. And so he said, he was like excited. Bossy, you've got to come down. So I went down on Thursday and he walked out because, you know, there's no lights in there. You start at 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock and she's come out in the sunlight hitting her and I went, oh my God, you know, this looked like a different horse from the early days. So I did 2 pieces of work on her that morning and at Markdale, it's magnificent, right? So you do a little canter on a track that's down the bottom and then you go onto another track which circles the whole paddock, the whole facility and it ends up on a hill.
Goes like that.
Yeah, it goes up on a hill right up and it looks over the whole property. So I did my first piece of work, then I did my second piece of work and she stood up on the top of the hill. Oh, I'm getting goosebumps now. She stood up on top of the hill. Look at these goosebumps. And she surveyed over the whole property and went, and I went, no, honestly.
So that same thing, her heart rate dropped.
Mate, I couldn't get down to Tony because Tony was there and Lee quick enough to say, mate, this is airborne.
Run her.
Airborne. It won't get beat. It will not get beat. And Lee's gone, no, not yet. We've got to do one more thing first. And that's when we took her to Mornington on that Derby morning and we give her that proper gallop. And but it was, mate, and Tony had big bets the first 2 years and he never had a bet the third year, but that was a year he should have had a massive bet because it was all over. It couldn't get beat.
But there was that storyline. Now it's come back to me about will she, won't she? And because the Melbourne Cup field doesn't get finalised until after or during Derby Day. Yeah. But then the barrier draw is after Derby Day. So all that time from the Tuesday when you get that phone call, everyone's speculating, surely she runs, surely they've got to have a stab at her. This pressure coming on, you got to run her. But it was Lee looking after the horse and getting affirmation from you that she was right.
Well, Lee said, I promise you, he said to me, that was after the Thursday, he said, no, we're going to do a proper gallop on Saturday at Mornington Racetrack. And if she doesn't handle that, we're not going. Because he said, I'm not going there to run second, third or fourth. Yeah. I'm not going there to do it. We have to win. Like that's his mindset. We are going there to win because I won't disappoint her and I won't disappoint anyone else.
And that's why he
because
was like
we asked her to do one thing this prep.
Yeah.
That was to win the Cox Plate.
She did it. Yeah.
And she did it. And he said, mate, I'm telling you, we're not going there unless we're thinking. And so we did that gallop on Tuesday, and it convinced Lee that she can win. And yeah, it was her softest victory. It was so soft. It was so easy.
And again, your ride, and it's the template still for Melbourne Cups.
Yeah.
Is it just wait because something will open up? Something will take a little, and you're behind horses at the top of the turn there, or as you're swinging for home, but you just, yep, there it goes. I don't get stuck behind the boat, as you said in your notes and things like that.
But, you know,
here's the moment.
Everyone talks about my template, and yeah, actually, you know, like I executed it to the plan, to the perfection. But you know who actually set the template for me? John Marshall, the late great John Marshall. Now he won for Bart Cummings on that
Rogan Josh.
Rogan Josh, right?
Yeah.
And I was very close to John Marshall and respected him highly. And I actually rang him on Monday and said, John, I really need your help. How do I win a Melbourne Cup? I got beaten one, you know, ran second a couple of years before, and it gutted me. And I said, mate, how do I ride this race? And he said, go and have a look at my ride. And because I knew his riding on Rogan Joss was good, he said, go and have a look at my ride on Rogan Joss. And this is where he said to me, mate, there's two waves. And he's the one, and I've carried this on. And John Marshall probably needs all the kudos for this. He said, listen, there's two waves. You cannot go on the first wave. You go on the second wave, and then you'll always get runs because they all get on this wave and go way too early. And they're thinking that, you know, they've got their runs and they're nearly at the top of the straight. Winnie Post is 400 metres away at this point still, right? He said they all get itchy. And he said, but when the second wave comes, all the first ones start dropping off and you always find runs. And I went, yeah, okay. He said, just ride a patient race. And I was always going to do that, you know, in one sense, but to have someone that I respected so much to actually say this is, and I never thought about the first wave. I never really thought, you know what I mean, or the second wave. But when he told me it made sense. Yep. So he set the template and I just carried it on and now it's the template.
And you had the horse to do it 3 times in a row.
Yep.
After that third one, what's the party like? Is it, grand piano off the back, or is it, let's rip in because this will never happen again?
It was really weird. That was a weird week for me. So you obviously ride Tuesday, then you've got Thursday, Oaks Day, and then you got the last day. Now, you talk about the ups and downs in racing and the highs and lows. So I'm coming with this massive high on Tuesday. Now, on Saturday, I'm riding one of my favourite horses in the world, Shogun Lodge. Yep. He's odds-on favourite for the mile race, and he is my favourite horse. Like her and him are my best 2 horses. He had an aneurysm halfway through the race, went down and died. We went through the fence and I broke my hand, like I've still got the scars, and I'm lying next to my best mate who was actually passed away. Yeah. And I'm all banged up. So I've gone from that to only 4 days later, I'm lying next to my best mate who's passed away and gutted. You know what I mean? And then we went to Port Lincoln and celebrated her win. But the whole time I've got a broken hand, and every time I felt my hand, I thought about my old mate. Yeah. You know, it was talk about ups and downs in sport. But you know, we had a great time celebrating with her. Port Lincoln put on a show for us, and Tony was at his best, and they've got the statue of her now in Port Lincoln, which I've seen people put flowers up against and stuff. So, the party with Tony and Christine and all the family and Lee was pretty big.
Outstanding. So there's some, heard it here only on Who's the Boss detail of that about Makybe Diva and her 3 wins. But let's flip back to the start a little bit. We're going to catch up with a man now who was there at the start, part of the David Hall stable, Vincent Hall, who back in those days with Makybe Diva, he was one of her first jockeys. Basically, he just develop Makybe Diva into the horse she was, so you could come along on the big day and get it done. But he had a massive role to play in the development of Makybe, because obviously the surname, David Hall, Vincent Hall, there's an obvious link there. But you're a jockey back in the day, Vincent. You're a trainer now. Your initial thoughts when Makybe Diva, the news comes out on the weekend that she had passed, about her?
Oh, it was devastating, really. She was such a champion, and she was definitely a part of my life. Not as big as Bossy's, but it was nice to have at least something to do with the horse. She was a lovely mare.
Vincent, it's when these things happen, everyone was ringing me saying, are you okay? And like that. And I was a little bit upset when at first, but it was more for me a time to really reflect and like. You go back to the early days. I remember when I first seen her, and this was well after you had done what you done with her, and all I remember was this big, long, rangy mare that she had this like big bone structure, but didn't have any muscle to go with it. But to watch her develop over the years, but so for you to see her in the early days, she must have looked even lighter than I did.
Yeah, well, that's right. There was absolutely nothing of her, and which just it was just a time thing, really.
Yep.
That's all that was, because she was from the Northern Hemisphere. Like, she's obviously 6 months behind to start with, and as you've just said, she was, she had the bone structure there, but she hadn't muscled up at all. She was a very lean and mean machine back when I was on her. And she was quite simply just developing on the go. Like, not many horses, they do it in their spells. They take their time to come along, but it was with her, it was run by run. She was just improving out of sight.
She did that her whole career.
Yeah.
It was incredible, like right to the very end. And I was just talking off air with Adam, and he asked me about my first time I got on her, and you'll be able to obviously back this up. Vin, like the first time I got on her was the 2,000 metre at Gallop at Flemington before the Caulfield Cup. And like, obviously she worked very good, but as a horse person, you're more interested because, that when you get to that level, all these horses can run fast for pretty good distances. But what I was taken by after her gallop, her recovery, she just took a couple of massive deep breaths in and her heart rate dropped very quickly. And then I thought, wow, we've got something, because all of a sudden I knew that we had something with an aerobic capacity that I'd never seen. You must have noticed that early as well.
Yeah, and it was the same thing. It was developing very quickly as we went along. I think when not a bad story about Makybe was when I won on her at Sale. We obviously won the race with easily enough. And after the race, I noticed I just pulled her up, as you do, and she just stood there, and there was some cattle across the road, and she just pricked her ears, and she stood there for, was a minute or two maybe, and she, same thing, just took two big breaths, and it was like I could have gone and just done the whole thing again.
It's rare, isn't it?
And Mark Flaherty was blowing up at me because I took so long to get back to scale. I think he was a bit thirsty, wasted a bit, and he was blowing up. But I said, "Oh, mate, I think this horse is pretty special."
So with her in the early day, her first 12 runs, you won 5 times on her. So obviously David Hall, part of the family. So he was her first trainer. The easiest thing in horse racing, like in life in general, is to get ahead of yourself because you think you got something that could be something quite special. What were those early formative runs like? Because obviously you were trying to plan for something much bigger and greater down the road, which eventuated, but so that you didn't get ahead of yourselves and just go, step at a time here. She's good, but she's not great yet.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. Obviously, she went from her maiden all the way through to the Group 2 Queen Elizabeth, was it?
Queen Elizabeth, yes, yeah.
Yeah. So David, in some ways, he probably did throw her in the deep end a little bit. But as I said earlier, every time we pushed the button, like there was just a new button to push sort of thing, She was just progressing as we went along. And And yeah, as Bossy said, she was only light in frame at that time. It wasn't until I seen her at when she was at Lee Freedman's, I thought, oh, she's a real proper man now. It was just a progressive sort of thing. Every time she's got put up to the mark, she just dealt with it. She was very special.
Yeah, we need to give David Hall a massive rap, because he kind of gets lost in the whole thing. With obviously Freddie saying what he did after the third one and all the stuff, but David Hall is a master horseman, and he knew what button to push at the right time with her at the right time. And without that very good foundation that he set in place, it wouldn't have happened. That wouldn't have happened after.
And he trained her to a first Melbourne Cup before he got the mammoth offer from Hong Kong.
Yes.
Those offers are sometimes too hard to refuse, aren't they? Despite the fact you've got a good horse.
And she was meticulously trained for that first one. Like Vinny, she ran a blinder in the Caulfield Cup just before that, and we knew that we could win the Melbourne Cup, but we just had to. David just had to do the right things for the next 2.5 weeks from the Caulfield Cup, and he did. He just he didn't overdo it, because he knew that she had the stamina to run 2 miles, but off a 2,000 metre prep. That he knew that straight away, because I'm referring to her aerobic capacity. So she had a light frame, so he didn't push her. He allowed her to be a stayer on her own, but he kept that speed in her, which allowed her to win that first Melbourne Cup. It was a masterstroke.
It's unbelievable the amount of speed she actually had at the end of those races, isn't it, Bossy? It's she's nearly breaking 34th, running 33.5 at the end of 2 miles. Pretty special, isn't it?
Yeah, you know what happened, Vin, and you know how you get the sectionals. All the jockeys get the sectionals. We study sectionals a lot. She notoriously run quicker last half mile, 600, 400, than the Group 1 sprint race on the day.
Wow.
At the end of a 2,000 metre race or a 1.5 mile race. Like, it was obvious every time you got the sectionals, she broke their sectionals.
It's not normal.
It's not normal. That's what gave me and anyone else who rode her, like Stephen King and them, the ability to sit and wait longer, because you knew when you asked her for an effort, it was no lag time. It come on very quickly, and you could go, okay, I'm going to break 30. I'm going to break 34 at the end of 2 miles. That's lengths on everyone else. So yeah, she was an incredible specimen.
Vinny, you had your last ride in a race on February 14, so obviously it was nice of Bossy to give you a Valentine's present on that occasion, back early in one of her preps.
Yeah, I was only there to warm her up. It wasn't required for too much in the early parts of her preparation, but it was always nice to have a sit on her.
What about Vin at the time, David Hall? This is an amazing story. So in 1 year, he had Makybe Diva, a world champion, Fantastic, who wound up being the world's best jumper, and he also had a horse called Silent Witness burning around in his stable, who was the world's best sprinter. He had him early on and trialled him up to be sold to Hong Kong.
Yeah.
That's right, eh, Vin?
Yeah, I think I told David to win a midweek maiden at Sandown or something, and he ended up selling it at 121 straight.
Yeah, I trialled him. Vin. I trialled him at Flemington one day.
Silent Witness.
And I thought the other barriers hadn't opened. Because I was actually, those little trials at Flemington, I looked around and they were actually like 150 metres behind me. So I thought it was a no trial. He was that quick. And then he went straight to Hong Kong.
Yeah, and did what he did. And it's only until now that Ka Ying Rising has beaten his record. Vinny, you're a trainer now. So you go along and you're looking for a good one to keep the smile on your face every morning and spring out of bed. But Makybe Diva, is she literally a once-in-a-generation, once-in-a-lifetime horse?
Oh, 100%. I doubt I'll ever see anything like her again. And, obviously you've got horses like Winx and Black Caviar, but I think, they're all pretty equal. But Makybe Diva just for 3 Melbourne Cups, it's such a hard race to win, and to win 3 of them, it's a massive effort.
I think you have a lot of the combination of a lot of things that have to come together for horses to find greatness. Obviously, they have to be great racehorses. They've got to have this amazing will to win, which she did. She just wanted to win. They have to be very fast. They have to be sound the whole way through, which is very difficult. And then you have to have a lot more combinations, because racing is littered with imperfections. There's track conditions. Some horses don't like wet, then you've got barrier draws, and you're dealing with a live animal. Then sometimes they're not on. They can have a slight temperature, which you don't know, or they have something that's not, their biorhythm's not right one day. But with her, it was a total opposite. She was on all the time. In all the times I rode her, other than when we took her to Japan and we cooked her, I never had a feeling of, oh, you weren't right today, or you were less than 100%. It was always 100%. It was incredible.
Hey, Benny, what was it like for you watching Bossy on the big days after you helped with her development, obviously, and learning how to be a racehorse around other horses on race day, seeing the big moments happen, given that connection you had with the horse?
Yeah, no, I thought it was, it's outstanding, really. I thought Bossy's rides are pretty much a 10 out of 10 in every cup. He didn't do much wrong on her, and he definitely had the horse there to finish the job, sort of thing. But it was great to see, and really good for Tony Santic. He's put a lot of money into the game, and he ended up with a champion.
What was the owner like, Tony, who we met on a episode last year on Who's the Boss, when Bossy opened the gates to Makybe Lodge and we got down there just out of Geelong? But what was he like early doors when you got back to scale after winning on her or having a ride on her? Was he like did he realise what he might have had in his colours?
Not really. They never really got too far ahead of themselves. But with any horse, like he had a lot of horses at David's, and he always looked after us and was very thankful of all the work we put in, sort of thing.
The reason I actually really got on her, Vin, other than because she had a lightweight, do you remember the day I got beaten on Royal Code in the Australian Guineas?
Yeah, I do actually.
Yeah. Well, remember, he should have clearly won this horse, right? He was a very expensive. Could have been. If you win an Australian Guineas, you can write your own ticket, like $20 million colt.
If the boy's still got all his
faculties. He was a colt, right? So I straightened up in the in the Australian Guineas, clearly going to win, and he was a colt that needed a bit of a reminder to do his job. So he needed a smack on the arse, because he just kind of went through the motions. But when you put him to the sword, he'd give you everything. It was just one of those horses, And never in my life before had I done it, and hadn't done it after that, I dropped my stick. Oh. I don't even know how it happened. So I rode this damn colt to the line, hard hands and heels, and he just didn't respond.
He didn't want to know about it.
He got beaten a neck. And I come back in and I said to David, and you could see visibly David was very upset.
Yeah.
Steam was coming in his ears. And Tony was kind of like, okay, what's going on? And I just said, mate, I'm sorry, I just cost you the Australian Guineas. I don't know how it happened. I don't know what happened. I dropped my stick, but I cost you the Australian Guineas. And I said, hopefully I can make it up one day to you. Anyway, because I didn't bullshit to them. And Tony said, don't worry, son, there'll be another day. But if I come back and said, oh, mate, the colt didn't try, he's a weak bastard because you know what I mean? Because he needed a hit on the arse. And you wouldn't believe it, within 12 months, they give me another opportunity.
Vincent, do you remember that day?
No, not clearly, but I do remember the horse. I had ridden him myself, and he sort of he needed a bit of extra help. Even at track work, he was quite laid back, you'd say.
But is that the game? Do you have jockeys coming back to you on one of yours these days, trying to BS you around the corner, and you can see straight through it?
Not really. No, everyone's been pretty fair, and I don't overcomplicate instructions. I know what it's like, unless generally you ride the horse and work out what's happening after the gates open.
So you're in a beautiful part of the world there down there at Mornington, which I've been down there and ridden a bit of work, and I love that complex. It's a really good place for nurturing young horses. They've got all these different tracks you can take them on, and take them through the country, and actually the facilities actually on the racetrack, the work tracks there are second to none. So you're going to have a good opportunity to find a nice horse there, Vin.
Yeah, no, and the MRC do a great job. All the staff are really good and welcoming, and we haven't had any issues. And as you said, that there's all the facilities are great. So we'll just have to come across a fast one day, hopefully.
Yep.
Hopefully half as fast as Makybe.
I was going to say that. Would you take one half as good as her?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. We're having this conversation now. They come along, you don't know where they're going to come from. Like she was just, like a.
She wasn't meant to be sold to Australia.
No, she was. She was supposed to be sold overseas, and they didn't. Yeah. And Tony
got passed in.
Well, he didn't get the money he wanted, so he brought it back. So
amazing.
But when they come back, when she come back here, like, you just look at it and go, well, okay, she's a big scrawny mare, but time and patience and development comes, and all of a sudden they start to blossom and come into their own. You just don't know where they're going to come from.
Absolutely. Benny, we'll let you go, mate. Just one last one. You're a trainer, so this is the usual question I ask of a trainer. Got anything good in the next couple of days?
We're a bit quiet for the next couple of weeks. We'll be busy over winter. Sort of a good time to aim our horses at the weaker time of the year. But we've got one called Harmonette. She ran just last week at Flemington, and she only got beat 2.5 lengths, and it was a benchmark 78, and she's only a 70 raider. So I think there's a benchmark 70 and a couple of weeks for fillies and mares. So she shouldn't be too far off the mark.
Sweet.
Well, then obviously I've never had this opportunity to say this, and because all the whirlwind had happened and we never crossed paths. But from a personal point of view, I'd like to say thanks to you and what you and David Hall did in her early years, because without all that education, without all that knowledge that you parted with David Hall and got together, without that, this wouldn't have happened. So from me, a big thank you, and I appreciate all your efforts. I really do.
No worries. Well done, Bossy. And enjoyed the chat. Thank you.
Mate, all the best, eh?
Cheers, mate.
Bossy, it can't be underestimated the people that play a part in a horse like Makybe Diva back in the day. And Vincent Hall, a massive part. Doesn't get talked about, doesn't have his own podcast, the 3 Melbourne Cups, but plays a massive role in what she did. Yeah,
you can't thank him enough, because without that proper foundation, and having the knowledge and the thought process to know when to push and when not to push with a juvenile kind of athlete. David Hall, a masterstroke to get her to that point and then hand the keys over to Lee. And obviously with Vinny, who had a very good horseman, had the knowledge to be able to guide her early, and then give me the keys of what was going to be a weapon, So, without those people, this thing wouldn't have happened.
Absolutely. Just having a look at the prize money list as well. I'm always fascinated about what modern day prize money would mean for a horse. Like she's, I think, around 14 million, something like that, which is not to be sniffed at, but she's up around 23, 24 and verging on Winx levels if it's modern day prize money. So when you look at, I'm just reiterating to people, when you're trying to line up champions, which I hate doing, I just go, she's the best horse of a generation. She's the best. He's the best horse of a generation. Whatever. And it's great that we get to see him. If we get in an era where we've got 2 of them, fantastic. It's great for racing. But she's in that band, which the untouchables almost. It's like, don't compare them, but just be thankful that we got to see him.
Absolutely. And the biggest thing is that the public support she had. It's incredible. She touched a lot of people. And I mean, when you look at these 3 trophies together, I mean, this is such a big part of our fabric. The Melbourne Cup, we all stop and for a moment, for 5 minutes, we all watch one thing. Do they stop and watch Cox Plate? No. Do they stop and watch Australian Cups? No, they don't. No one does it. But they all stop and watch this. So she left a massive footprint in Australian sport and around the world. So many people tuned in to watch this around the world. So she left a big mark in our sport. The big moments are all about what IP event. Nice little segue here, isn't it? IPevents.com.au, IP events. These guys are the place to go when you want to go to a big sporting event, be it Origin, be it Melbourne Cup Carnival.
You're going to the Quokka this year as well, over in the West. They
I'm
like
involved with a lot of
time.
them, and I'm looking forward to go over to Western Australia because they put on a party, and IPE know how to put on a party themselves. So the food's great, the entertainment's great. Nothing's no stones left unturned to give everyone a good time, and I can't wait to get over there in the Quokka. And then when we go, Winter Carnival, we're up there for the 10,000. There's so many other sporting, the rugby union, the Origin, which I love. Go Queensland.
Oh, here we go.
Here we go.
Got in early.
I did, didn't I?
Yeah.
IPE events.
Yeah.
If you want to go and get entertained and have a good time, get on their website.
These are the guys to see. Let's get to Bossy's best right now. And before we get to Bossy's best and his tips for the Group 1s this weekend, a special shout out to our friends at Ladbrokes, also big supporters of Who's the Boss. They send Bossy around the place as well. Bossy, what's on the agenda with Ladbrokes in the coming months for you?
Oh, mate, we go to all the country cups. We go everywhere. They're massive supporters of country racing in Australia. So I love getting out to the country, up top, especially the top end of Queensland. So Ladbrokes massive. They've got a big footprint, and I'll actually be in New Zealand for the Kiwi.
The Kiwi.
This week, yes. So I'm looking forward to that.
Absolutely. So let's get to our Group 1s right now, and we're going to start at Flemington. We're going to start with the All-Star Mile, Bossy, over the mile, Group 1.
And treasure the moment for me.
Yeah.
She was brilliant first up, and I looked at her first up, and she's growing. She's gone. She reminds me of not a Makybe, but she was a lightly framed, juvenile kind of filly, early mare. She's come back this preparation, and she looks proper. She led up first up. I know she was odds on, and she got beat, but that's not her place. I expect massive improvement from her, and I think she wins.
She won't lead here because Pride of Jenny will.
Correct.
But how close do they need to stay to Pride of Jenny so she doesn't get away with what she does over the mile at Flemington sometimes?
We all love Pride of Jenny, and I'm one of her biggest fans. But I'm so treasure the moment. I think this is her race.
The Newmarket Handicap race, you know well. You've got to get your timing right in this one. Down the straight over 6 furlongs, 1,200 metres. Tentyrus is there with a fair old weight for a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
Does that stop him, or is he just too good?
I rode a horse called Fastnet Rock, who was an absolute superstar 3-year-old. He carried 58 in a Newmarket, a kilo more than this bloke, but he got beaten by another superstar called Alingi. Like, I've never seen another 3-year-old get anywhere near 58, and this bloke has 57, and he probably deserves it, but it stops him. But there's no Alingis in this race, but Benedetta will run very well at 54 kilos, and My Gladiola with no weight, Craig Williams. If the weight has got him, I think My Gladiola is the horse to beat him. But he's a proper colt.
So which way are you going?
He's odds on, right? So I'm going to go with My Gladiola just because I think the Newmarket traditionally is won by a horse with a light weight, and it went super the other day, and I think it's the one to beat Tentyrus, and they'll say, the weight got him. That's what I'm tipping.
Randwick, Randwick Guineas, Group 1 for the 3-year-olds over the mile. Thoughts?
She's alibi.
Yeah. Peter Moody. Kath Coleman.
Well, they get into this race with light.
Yep.
She's got 54 kilos. Trumby Nolan, he'll be busting his little boiler to ride 54, but he knows how good she is. And did you see her win first up?
Oh, it was ridiculous.
Oh, my God. It's got turner speed,
yeah,
which you have to have in these races. So I reckon she'll go up there and put on a show. I really do. And I think you'll get a good price about her. So I've been a massive fan of hers the whole time, and all I wanted to see her is come back this prep, and it's come back better than ever.
And lastly, the Canterbury Stakes, you could argue, as we were with John O'Shea on a previous episode, that some races are Group 1s and some races shouldn't be Group 1s. I think this is in the latter camp, but still, it's valuable to the winners and the owners and everyone involved. This one at Randwick as well. Which way are you going, Bossy?
Talking about John O'Shea, Napoleonic. It's got tempted form and ninja form. That's some of the best form in Australia over those distances at the moment. So I'm going away from the favourites, and I'm tipping Napoleonic.
We've all got deep down a bit of ninja form, I think, but this one literally does. So.
But I think that's strong form. Tempted does everything at a very high rate, and if you run well beside it, you're going to run well everywhere.
Well, Bossy, this was an episode that unfortunately we had to do.
Yes.
by due fact that Makybe Diva has passed, but it was wonderful. And I love sharing so many of these memories that you've got of the great mare. And like we do the toast at the top.
Yep.
I think it was
We'll
fitting
do the toast now.
to see it out with
We're
the
going to do the
toast.
toast now. How about that? We got the
Maddie?
got the champagne.
Maddie, our sommelier here at Who's the Boss, has
I'm
got
going
us.
to give you. I'm going to give you.
There's a story behind all of these, and
First
we've
one.
told them.
You have the first one.
I'll have the first one.
And I'll go 05, right? So we can top and tail.
Yes.
The that's 04. I've got that many of them. I don't know what one's what. Jeez, I'm an idiot.
It's a good problem to have.
Mate, I'm a dickhead. Swear to God.
Bossy
Mate,
to Makybe.
here's to my beautiful girl I called Mum. Sleep well, big girl. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers, Bossy.
Makybe.
Thanks for watching, and remember, like,
And subscribe.
like,
And subscribe.
like.
And subscribe.
It's that simple.